Hi, I'm Andy Ramirez for the Liberty News Network. And on today's program, we're going to talk about the recent events in Japan, including the earthquake, tsunami, and the aftermath. And for this, I have a special guest. He's a college student and friend of mine who I got to know through some of my activism in the area of illegal immigration and border security. A Temple student, his name is Erik Jacobs. And Erik, as you'll see, had quite an experience and actually will be able to shed some light as to some of the events, how they were reported in Japan, and some of his impressions as to things that he saw and experienced firsthand. Erik, thanks for taking time to join me today. And tell us a little about yourself.
Hey, Andy. Thanks for having me on. I am a 20-year-old current second semester sophomore at Temple University in Philadelphia. And I've been really involved politically in Philadelphia for the last about year and a half. And I'm an economics major at Temple. And I've always wanted to take the opportunity to study abroad because a lot of people don't have that opportunity. And I wanted to go to Tokyo because of the ability to be on a Temple campus abroad and take advantage of their international trade courses and some international politics courses. So I left for Tokyo on January 5th of this year.
You're there, and now the big quake hits. And of course, I've had the opportunity to review some of the footage that you were able to take. First, talk a little bit about how you were able to get the footage.
Usually, classes were going along very well through the semester, and I was enjoying the class and just getting to know people. And after the first week or so, I really didn't take my camera with me everywhere because I had taken pictures of everything. I had taken pictures with my friends, and I was kind of settling down into life just like anyone would in a semester at college. And on the day of the earthquake, I don't know why, but for some reason, I left my room as usual without my camera, and I had one step out the door, and excuse me, I went back into my room and grabbed my camera for some reason, and it was just a fluke that I had it that day. And then we were sitting in the computer lab. I think it was around 3:30 in the afternoon in Tokyo time, but I don't remember exactly. And all of a sudden our chairs felt like massage chairs, and then the building started to sway back and forth. And about 30 seconds or so through the earthquake, I had a revelation that, oh my goodness, I had my camera. I should try and get some of this on video so I can remember the experience forever, and I can share it with my friends and other people who might be interested to see what it was like, at least at Temple Japan campus, who weren't able to be there.
Right, so now the quake hits, and, in talking about this, before naturally doing the interview, one of the things you had mentioned was the difference in how the Japanese students handled this as compared to everybody else. Can you talk about that?
Sure. I was sitting in the computer lab next to a Japanese student when the earthquake started, and she was concerned, but most of the foreigners, I don't know if you're showing the video or not, but most of the foreigners from America and other parts really didn't understand what was going on. We realized it was an earthquake, and we thought it was interesting because most of us wanted to experience a small earthquake just to say, we were in Tokyo and we felt the earthquake. But then after it was over and everyone flushed outside, the foreigners, myself included, became very intrigued and thought the situation was extremely serious when we saw how the Japanese students reacted. Girls and guys alike were crying and trembling, and they were trying to get a hold of their family members, but they couldn't because a lot of the cell phone lines were down because of the high traffic after the earthquake. After we went outside, we went back into the building 15 minutes later, and there was an aftershock that was almost as strong. And that was very frightening because we didn't know if it was going to build up and get bigger or if it was going to stop. But it eventually stopped, and then they ended up closing the building for the rest of the day.
And now how long did it take afterwards just to reopen?
I think it was, if I recall, it was about 15 to 20 minutes because they had someone come down and check the building to make sure that the structure was sturdy and that it was safe to re-enter. But then after that, we went right back into the building.
Okay. Now, when did you first learn that, initially, I'm sure you might have thought that Tokyo itself might have been the center of the quake, or just outside of Tokyo. When did you first learn that the quake was in Sendai?
Right after the earthquake, we really had no idea. In between the large quake and the aftershock, I got onto Twitter, so I was starting to find out some things. but I wasn't able to figure out exactly where it was. I knew that it was in the Pacific Ocean. After the aftershock, I ended up going. I met a Japanese girl and some other guys, and we went back to her apartment for a while. That's when we turned on the television, and that's when we saw just the horrific tsunamis and the chemical plant fires, and that's when we knew that Tokyo experienced the earthquake, but it was a lot worse in a lot of other places.
Now, when you started to see that, I hate to use this as a reference, but, looking at it on TV, it was kind of something out of a Godzilla movie where you're seeing, the wave as it's hitting the shore and the destruction from that, but then you're also seeing the plant fires and you're seeing really a swath of destruction.
Yeah, it was almost surreal just to see all of those things happening at one time. And I was in New Orleans several years ago, a couple years after Katrina, helping down in the Ninth Ward. And I thought that was bad down there even several years afterwards. And I just saw the tsunami on television there in Japan, and I knew that this was going to be something that we had never seen before in terms of disasters. I mean, just seeing the houses get pulled out to sea. And they had a clip whenever the tsunami started to recede of a large whirlpool that had formed out in the ocean. It was just terrible, and we were all very lucky that we weren't a part of that in the Sendai region.
Now, speaking of television, we also kind of touched on that prior to doing the interview, and you mentioned about what you saw and were experiencing on Japanese TV. Can you talk about that? How it was being reported?
Yeah, a lot of us really weren't sure what to believe. They had an English language translation of the television online that some of us were watching, and I think a day or two after the earthquake is when the nuclear problem started to happen. So whenever I think it was reactor number 2 had a problem, the channel just went and talked about the problem there for about 30 seconds or not very long, and then they went right back to the other coverage. So we weren't really sure what to believe, and a lot of people got concerned whenever the media really wasn't discussing what was happening at those nuclear plants. Even though they were so far away from Tokyo, we knew that there was a chance that something could happen there as a result of those. So we weren't sure if it was covering up or if in fact nothing was really happening. It was just concerning, that's all.
Right. Now, we also talked about the distance. You were noting that some people didn't realize the distance from Tokyo to Sendai. If you could talk a little about that.
Yeah, I think we were about 150 miles away from the nuclear power plants at Fukushima, where I was in Tokyo. And a lot of people back home thought that Tokyo had really taken the brunt of the force. I was getting a lot of questions about did I see the water, or what was it like with destruction in the city. And Tokyo is, in my opinion, is the safest city in the world when it comes to earthquakes. And we were very lucky to be in a building that was up to code, and I didn't see any damage at all in the city, and except for a building that had a stucco side that was cracked. And you could see the buildings swaying a good bit after the earthquake, but it was just, there's a big difference in terms of where we were in Tokyo and what really happened. And I'm just very happy and thankful that I wasn't 150 miles north and east of the city, because things could have been a lot worse.
How do you feel that this has affected you and changed you?
Well, I think it helped me put a lot of things in perspective. I used to complain about a lot of smaller things, but after experiencing this earthquake and dealing with the aftermath of it and having to change things, it took me 3.5 hours to walk home asking for directions in Japanese. I think it helped put things in perspective for me, where I can't control everything, and I just need to take control of what I can control. And I think it also helped me appreciate my family more, because they were really there on my side helping me, trying to get home. They were very concerned about the situation. I don't even want to know what it would be like to be halfway around the world and really not have any control at all of what was happening to your family. So I think those were the two things that changed me from the experience.
Now, speaking of getting home, how long did that take?
Well, it took me 6 hours to get to the airport. Usually that would take about a little more than 2 hours from where I was staying. But I got to the Shibuya station, which is where you would transfer to get the express line to the airport, and I found out the train wasn't running to the airport. Keep in mind this was on, I believe it was Tuesday morning, so it was several days after the earthquake. And usually girls who know a little bit of English or aren't from Japan dress a little more Western. So I saw these two girls in the station that had bags that said TSA on them. So I asked them in Japanese if they were going to the airport, and they answered in English that they were, and they said, "Do you want to come along with us?" So I teamed up with them, and then we ran into another girl who was kind of in the same boat, and the four of us ended up having to change trains several times and take a taxi, but we got to the airport, and I was able to get on my plane 10 minutes before it left. So that was a very long 6 hours for me.
Right, and then from there you were able to fly back to the Midwest, as I understood.
I actually flew to D.C., but it was it was a big relief to be on that plane as soon as we left the ground in Japan. I mean, nobody wanted to leave, but I think it was the decision that had to be made in the end.
As we close here, what is your message you want people to know?
Well, I just think that everybody needs to know that there are tens of thousands of people that are affected extremely negatively right now by the situation, and even when the TV cameras stop showing that here in the U.S., that situation is going to be there for years to come, and we just need to be thinking about those people and doing whatever we can to help those people, because it's very bad there, and I don't know when it will be getting better. It'll probably be a very long time, and my thoughts are with them.
As are everyone at home that are viewing this program. Well, Erik, I thank you very much for your time and for sharing with this story. People at home will have a better idea and understanding of this. And as a friend, I'm just thankful you're able to get home safely back to your family, and thank God you're alive. But there's still a lot of people over there to think about and pray for.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time, Andy. It means a lot to have the support group and people that care about us and about me back in the U.S. It just means a lot to know that those people are there supporting you. It helped me get through. The situation, and it was just nice to get back home. Thank you.
Thank you for watching my special report and interview of Erik Jacobs, American college student from Temple University, who was there in Japan when the earthquake hit. We look forward to bringing you continued programs to talk about important issues and the things that are happening affecting not only America but the world as well. For the Liberty News Network, I'm Andy Ramirez.